Welcome to the Danis Files, a Popcast series exploring the life and experiences of Our Lady of the Lake University administrator and educator, Mary Francine Danis, PhD. Sit back and enjoy the Danis Files.
Sure, yeah. So during the summer of 2009, I had the awesome and daunting and sometimes frightening responsibility of preparing to start the Writing Center as a separate entity.
Right.
I remember going into the gym at St. Martin Hall where we had stored a lot of furniture. A lot of that was after the 2008 fire.
Oh, that's right.
And God knows if it was all from that or what. But Glenda Schaefer, who was one of the original graduate student tutors, came over and helped me select furniture from what was available.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of used stuff. We managed to latch onto some really nice rolling chairs that seemed to be new. And, during all the time that we used those, I hoped nobody was going to say, oh, those belong over here. Dr.
Right.
So-and-so is going to claim those.
Right.
Yes. And we moved into this, what was then an empty room in the Warden building. And it was empty because the VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, had been working in that room.
Mm-hmm.
The professor who worked with the accounting students to train them for the VITA help retired, and I don't think they had anybody to take his place right away. So we had this empty space with a door that had a punch key combination because, all that income tax information had to be secured. And so we got things set up there over the summer. The university was good enough to provide me with funding to go to Philadelphia for a summer institute, a week-long conference held by the International Writing Centers Association, which was just perfect.
Really?
They had sessions for new Writing Center directors. They had history of the Writing Center movement. They were giving away free books.
Yeah.
They had all kinds of practical help. So it was just perfect. I knew how to teach writing.
Right.
I knew how to work with students one-on-one, but I wasn't quite sure, when we started out, okay, well, what's
the difference?
This? Yeah, what is this Writing Center thing, and how are we
Yeah.
supposed to do? And, how am I supposed to direct a staff of people and train them and keep track of what they're doing and be accountable and all that kind of stuff. So that was an ongoing learning process. But yeah, that conference was just ideal. And the IWCA, the International Writing Center Association, has been just a marvelous, marvelous source of assistance.
And that's definitely a name, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's definitely a name that I see all the time.
Sure.
I've seen the literature here, and I see it other places as well, and that sounds so awesome to be able to, as you said, it's kind of a daunting task, but I think, as an educator, I would imagine that's just par for the course, because you don't always know what you're going to be going into from semester to semester, as a classroom educator, but specifically, like you said, what's the different pedagogical, divide,
Exactly.
if it exists, and what is it, to kind of identify that. So please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, and that's a really good point. Yeah. So we need to talk about pedagogy at some point here. And the IWCA, which interestingly, if you Google IWCA, you will also come across the International Window Cleaners Association.
Not to be confused with them, of course. I'm sure they have a place on campus if we look around.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, yes. Well, you know, if your writing is a window to your academic abilities,
go.
then
That's a
yes,
connection.
we all fit. Sure. But IWCA, this one is affiliated with the National Council of Teachers of English,
Okay.
which again has been a professional home of mine forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been very, very grateful to them. And
Well,
yes.
that's good that there was that connection, so that, like you said, you weren't completely thrown into the deep end, if you will.
Right,
You have
right.
that kinship there, educational kinship.
Yeah. And I learned when I went to Philadelphia that writing centers had been part of the landscape for a good 25 plus years at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was aware of writing centers to some extent when I went to professional conferences that focused on teaching English.
Right.
And especially another acronym, the 4 C's, the Conference on College Composition and Communication. Because teaching writing and working with rhetoric and composition was my special interest, and also helping future English teachers get prepared.
Right.
That was one of the conferences that I went to a number of times. And they had sessions where writing center professionals were presenting. I have to confess that in my early days, I, like a lot of people, did not think about writing centers as being quite on a par with everything else that was going on in the field of English.
Most definitely.
Which sort of reflects sort of a split within a split.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of places, unfortunately, there's a split between literature and composition.
Right.
And then even within composition, I mean, composition encompasses so many facets. And sometimes the writing center folks don't get the respect that they deserve, even from the composition
Right.
Focused people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a crazy kind of world, but we all have the same goals,
Right.
which is Randy Bomer at UT Austin wrote a book that I used in one of the Teaching English Language Arts courses. It has a long title, and I can't remember all of it, but he talks about immersing students in this world of literacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mission of English.
Mm-hmm.
Just helping them move in a literate world,
Right.
reading, writing, viewing, speaking, filming, podcasting, all of that is incorporated. Yeah. So I in the fall of 2009, then we started working in the writing center, and I don't have figures with me, but we've got those figures about how many people we served that semester and how that's grown over the subsequent 5 years since then.
On a funny note, we still have all of your
hard documentation,
All right.
from that
Whoa.
time. That took us about a day to pack.
Yeah.
But it is still that we
It exists.
It
Yeah.
exists.
Good.
We looked at some of it to see kind of what you were doing at the time. It was an interesting comparison to see what we're doing now. But it does exist. It's still
Okay,
here.
good.
It's probably next door.
Yeah, we talked periodically about scanning all of that material and